Let's go live to Ukraine and Joseph Lindsley. Joseph, are you still on the move?
Yeah, and I will be about 5 minutes after we finish speaking today. Good afternoon. I will be boarding the train to my next destination. But right now, I'm right outside of the majestic Odesa rail station. It's very close to the Black Sea. You can kind of feel the salty breeze of the air. Of course, no one can go to the seacoast because the water is mined. And it's a war zone, so it's not your typical Odessa summer. And right in front of me is the trade union building, which in May 2014, pro-Russian forces were occupying this building, and Ukrainian civilians fought them off in May 2014. And this was just 2 months after Russia had taken the Crimean Peninsula. And so it's a reminder that this war, it started 8 years ago, before its current most intense period. And but I'm sort of sad to leave Odessa. It's an absolutely beautiful city. It reminds me, it has the elegance of Paris with its restaurants and boulevards and sort of, early 1900s cafes. It has a beach-like feeling of Tel Aviv with its outdoor markets, amazingly prepared vegetable dishes, like I've never had except in Israel. And there's open-air cafes. In fact, there's a whole market with maybe a dozen outdoor coffee shops, and old men are sitting there playing dominoes, and it has an amazing feeling. And then it has the boisterous of New Orleans with jazz and a really deep, rich cuisine. And then it has this strange, unique vibe. And I think this is its Ukrainian spirit, going back to its ancient roots as a Cossack camp. But it's fiercely independent. And I've really realized these past few days that, most Ukrainians don't want to speak Russian anymore. Even if up until February 23rd, they were speaking Russian, most Ukrainians are trying to stop. Here, they continue to speak Russian proudly. And I think it's part of they don't want anyone to tell them what to do. And even if they hate Putin, they're not going to let Vladimir Putin change the language that they choose to speak. And so I really see that independence here.
We've been hearing a lot about the spirit there. And I guess one of the things buoying that spirit is this counteroffensive we're hearing about. And is this right? The Ukrainian forces have actually taken back some areas that Russia captured a long time ago?
Well, yes and no. So yesterday, Ukrainian Telegram was exploding with joy, really, about the news of Ukrainians on a counteroffensive in Kherson. And it certainly seems like Ukrainians did take some key territory, and actually they were able to advance far enough to get into the city of Kherson, and there was street fighting. Today, there's hardly any news about this. And I think what happened is I think the government and the military probably realized, and regular Ukrainians realized, they were giving away too much information to the Russians about these advances. And so today the news is very quiet. In fact, even if you look on the online maps created by sort of IT students that monitor, how far the Russians have advanced, you don't see any evidence of what happened yesterday. So I think we can safely say something big did happen yesterday. There certainly was some Ukrainian advance. Some estimated up to 10 kilometers, but we don't have any reliable information on that. And I think we won't know at least for a few days. Certainly, I think Russia was quite angry because they responded both yesterday and then even just maybe starting 30 minutes ago with intense shellings in the center of the city of Mykolaiv, which is only maybe 50 miles from Odessa.
And you say that just started like a half hour ago?
Well, a half hour ago, they started the latest round. They sort of were doing that through the night. And then a half hour ago, they're now shelling on Mykolaiv, yes.
Okay, now I want to get to this Showtime program that debuted a while ago. I just watched it for the second time, The Loudest Voice, starring Russell Crowe as Roger Ailes, the story of the beginning of Fox News, and also Roger Ailes and all of the problems he encountered. And Joseph Lindsley is portrayed in that movie. So a couple of questions I have about this, Joseph. First of all, it's from a book and a magazine article called The Loudest Voice. And you were a consultant, as I saw in the credits. Was it an accurate portrayal of everything?
Yeah, well, it's, Hollywood takes their licenses as they will. I think the actors had a lot of, the actors portrayed the characters very well. And I had written a book, which I still is not published, and that's a whole other story. And But people, I guess the publishers wanted me to say certain things in the book that I didn't want to say. And one main reason why I left Fox is I didn't like there was less of a focus on seeking the truth and more on stirring people up. And this is not just Fox. It's so much of a lot of the media in America. I was resisting that. But in telling my story, almost everyone wanted me to kind of commit the same sin that I was trying to get away from, to be angry and to destroy people. But there are scenes, and that's why I haven't finished watching the show, because I saw some clips that weren't true. I mean, there was a scene where I was crying in the rain. The actor playing me, with whom actually the first day of filming, I had beers with him so he could better understand me, and he learned my accent. But then the studio said, "No, don't speak like Joe. No, no one will understand you. It's too weird of an accent."
I don't think so.
So he doesn't sound like me. But there's a scene where he's crying in the rain. Or I'm crying in the rain, and like an old country song. And then there's another scene where Russell Crowe, playing Roger Ailes, is talking to me while he's cutting vegetables in the kitchen. I don't think Roger ever ate vegetables, A. But the conversation that we had there, and the conversation that I had while I was on the phone talking to Roger, crying in the rain, those scenes never happened. And just two examples, in some ways, I wish scenes like that happened. I think if I am who I am now, I could have spoken more honestly with Roger and said, "Hey, are we handling things right?" I was the only person he listened to. He always said that he never met anyone more like him than me, which was quite a burden. I was 24 when I got there, 27 when I left. But I didn't know. I was very much like him, and I just knew I had to change. And there was a few people helped me. My sister was one of them. She had an internship at Fox. They kind of portrayed that well in the show, except they used the wrong sister. I mean, Hollywood, that's the thing. Hollywood, they're trying to criticize Fox for not being accurate, but yet Hollywood can get away with not being accurate. Mm-hmm. But that's the nature of it. But I think I knew I had to change. I knew, like my sister and a few other people said, "You are becoming a pig. You're becoming like these people." And none of them are happy. And it was true. I mean, Roger, even though I left and they tried to ruin my life and they chased me in a Hudson Valley car chase, I was still his only friend probably. And so I knew there was goodness there and everything wasn't all bad. But there have been moments in the past years of wandering the world where I've wished, if I had stayed, because you have a private jet and you have, you're living a Hollywood life, the beautiful girls of Fox and everything. And it's, but then I realized that if I'd stayed, I would not run Fox the way I would want to run it now. I had to leave and go into the wilderness and change. And I want to be here in Ukraine now, where I think this is where I'm meant to be. So,
well, and in the movie, Joseph ends up running the newspaper near the little town where the Ailes are living. And I know that's true, right? You actually did that for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what I thought. All I signed up for was to edit a small town newspaper, and I was very old fashioned back then. Even though I was a kid, I loved newspapers. But then it turned out that was the first step into becoming the protege of Roger. And Rupert Murdoch's consigliere, a guy named Marty Singerman. I don't know if this was in the show. He had sort of found me when I was working in Washington as a young sort of conservative journalist. And he gave me the Godfather blessing. And he said, "My son, one day you're going to run the company. Just follow my steps." And so the first step was a newspaper, but quite quickly, my whole life has taken over. I mean, I tried to go on vacation after I'd been there for a year. I went to see my family in Ireland, and Roger and his wife said, "Oh, we'll come with you." So we took Rupert's jet and went to Ireland, which seemed kind of cool and nice, but I had no freedom whatsoever. And that was part of the problem. I realized that my whole life is going to be controlled by these people if I didn't get out of there.
And it's so interesting. And as I've said before, Joseph Lindsley, world's most interesting man, and we'll check in with you again tomorrow. Thanks for talking about the movie, because I was just fascinated after watching it again and seeing that you were the main character in two parts of it. Be safe. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Bob, and it helps me put these things in context, because I forgot about that stuff a bit. So I'll talk to you from a different city in Ukraine tomorrow.
We look forward to it.